There are some machines in this world that carry within their rusted frames not just metal and bolts, but entire lifetimes of memories, journeys, laughter, and tears. The vehicle you see before you in this haunting photograph is one such machine, a Fiat 238 camper motorhome, now sitting abandoned and broken on a desolate moorland, its windows shattered, its body consumed by rust, its roof caved in under the weight of decades of neglect. Yet despite its heartbreaking condition, this old van still tells a story so powerful that anyone who understands automotive history cannot help but feel a deep sense of respect and sorrow looking at it. This is the story of the Fiat 238, a machine born out of Italian engineering brilliance, a vehicle that once represented freedom, adventure, and the open road, and a camper that has now become a ghost of everything it once was. The Fiat 238 was introduced in 1967 by the Italian automotive giant Fiat, one of the oldest and most respected car manufacturers in the world, headquartered in Turin, Italy. Fiat, which stands for Fabbrica Italiana Automobili Torino, had already established itself as a powerhouse in European automobile production, building everything from small city cars to commercial vehicles. The 238 was designed as the natural successor to the older Fiat 1100T van, and it was engineered to compete directly with the German Volkswagen Combi and the British Ford Transit, both of which were dominating the European commercial vehicle market at the time. Fiat engineers based the 238 on the chassis and mechanical platform of the Autobianchi Primula, a front-wheel drive car that was ahead of its time, and this decision gave the 238 a unique and highly practical advantage over its competitors. Because the engine was mounted transversely at the front and the van used front-wheel drive, there was no need for a large drivetrain tunnel running down the center of the vehicle, which meant the rear cargo and living floor could be completely flat and spacious, a feature that made it absolutely ideal for conversion into a camper or motorhome. When the 238 was first launched, it was powered by a 1,197cc inline four-cylinder petrol engine sourced from the Fiat 124, though it was slightly detuned to produce around 43 to 44 horsepower. This was not a powerful engine by any means, but it was reliable, economical, and well-suited to the van's commercial and leisure purposes. In 1975, Fiat introduced a larger 1,438cc engine producing around 45 to 46 horsepower, and this upgrade gave the van a bit more grunt for loaded journeys. The top speed was approximately 105 km per hour, and while that may seem modest by today's standards, it was perfectly adequate for the highways and country roads of 1960s and 1970s Europe. The Fiat 238 was produced in a remarkable variety of body styles: standard vans, pickup trucks, ambulances, minibuses, school buses, and of course, camper motorhomes. The camper conversion versions became particularly beloved across Italy, Germany, and the United Kingdom, where the van life movement was beginning to take root long before it ever became fashionable. Fiat itself offered an official camper conversion called the 238 Andel, while many independent coach builders across Europe also produced their own bespoke motorhome versions on the 238 platform. These camper versions typically featured elevated roof sections over the cab, sometimes called cab-over sleeping pods, which dramatically increased the living space inside the van. A typical 238 camper would have a small kitchenette with a gas hob, a compact dining area that converted into sleeping berths, basic storage cupboards, and sometimes even a tiny bathroom with a chemical toilet. The elevated cab roof section allowed for an additional sleeping berth above the driver's cab, making it possible for a small family of 3 or 4 people to travel and live comfortably inside the van. In terms of original pricing during its production years, a base Fiat 238 van in the late 1960s and 1970s would have cost the equivalent of a modest working-class salary in Italy and across Europe. A fully fitted camper conversion on the 238 platform would have cost significantly more. Prices for complete motorhome versions ranged from the equivalent of approximately $5,000 to $15,000 depending on the specification and the coach builder, which in those days represented a substantial investment for most families. Today, well-preserved and restored examples of the Fiat 238 camper have become genuinely collectible, with some selling at auction for between $10,000 and $14,000, reflecting the growing global interest in vintage campervans and the van life culture. The 238 was produced continuously from 1967 right through to 1983, a remarkable production run of 16 years, during which Fiat sold the van across Italy, Germany, France, the United Kingdom, and numerous other European markets. In 1974, Fiat introduced a larger successor called the Fiat 242, and then in 1981 launched the now iconic Fiat Ducato, which would go on to become the most popular motorhome base vehicle in all of Europe. Despite these newer rivals, the 238 continued to sell strongly right up until 1983, a testament to how practical, reliable, and well-loved it truly was. The van you are looking at in this photograph has clearly seen better days. Its cream or white paintwork, once perhaps gleaming when it rolled out of a coachbuilder's workshop sometime in the 1970s, is now almost entirely consumed by deep orange and brown rust. The cab over sleeping section has partially collapsed. The windows are smashed or missing entirely, allowing decades of wind, rain, and birds to enter freely. The tires have long since rotted away, leaving the vehicle sunk into the soft moorland ground. The surrounding landscape, a bleak, windswept stretch of open moor under a gray sky, seems almost too perfectly symbolic, as if nature itself has claimed this old wanderer and made it part of the landscape forever. It is impossible to know exactly how this vehicle ended up here. Perhaps a family once drove it across the British countryside, camping in the Lake District or the Scottish Highlands, cooking simple meals on its tiny stove and sleeping under its elevated roof while rain hammered the thin metal shell around them. Perhaps children once peered out of these very windows that are now broken and empty. Perhaps a retired couple once sat at the small dinette table planning their next adventure with a road map spread open between them. Whatever journeys this Fiat 238 camper completed in its working life, it is now at the very end of its road, resting in an open field, slowly returning to the earth. And yet there is something quietly beautiful about it, a dignity in decay, a reminder that all things must eventually come to rest, and that even a forgotten old van on a windswept moor can carry within it the echo of 1,000 miles and 1,000 memories. The Fiat 238 was not the most powerful vehicle ever made, nor the most luxurious, nor the most technologically advanced, but it was honest, practical, and deeply human in the way it served the people who drove it and lived in it, and that is something worth remembering and honoring. If you enjoyed this story and want to explore more fascinating histories of forgotten, abandoned, and legendary vehicles from around the world, then please give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family, and make sure you subscribe to our channel CarPoint and History so you never miss a single story. Your support means everything to us and keeps these incredible automotive histories alive for everyone to discover and enjoy.